The Autobots learn of a Cybertronian spacecraft hidden on the moon, and race against the Decepticons to reach it and to learn its secrets. This is my review of Transformers: Dark of the Moon. The first time I saw this movie was back in 2011 when it came out on DVD and Blu-ray, and the reason I didn't see it at the movie theater was because I heard from word of mouth and from some of my friends that this movie was bad, so I decided not to see it. And when I saw it, when I rented the movie, I thought at the time that it was better than Revenge of the Fallen, but I still thought it was bad. And after rewatching it before seeing Transformers 4, I still think that it's better than Revenge of the Fallen, but it's still a really bad movie. The good points. The best thing about this movie was this really small surprise that I didn't see coming, and when it happened I was like, wow, that's a little bit cool. But then I didn't like it, and I'll explain myself later on in the spoiler section. Other than that, I thought that the sound design was done well with the Transformers transforming, or the firefights or fights between the Autobots and the Decepticons, or the Decepticons and the humans. And all the other destruction and mayhem happening in the film sounded good. For the most part, I thought that the visual effects were done well too. The people behind the visual effects still do a good job of putting every little detail in these Transformers. And they do a good job with the visual effects surrounding the Transformers and the visual effects surrounding the destruction. Like in the last movie, I thought that there were some action scenes that were done well in this movie. And the final good thing I have to say about this movie is the editing. Well, some of the editing, because there were some scene transitions that I actually thought were good, and I thought that there were some scenes that were actually edited good as well. The bad points. Like in the last movie, I think that the number one problem this Transformers movie had was the writing. And the bad thing about it is they got the same writer from the last movie to write this movie. Yeah, that's a great idea. That turned out really well in the last movie. And this movie had the same problem as the last movie did with the writing, which was the scene development, the character development, the story, and the dialogue. And not only that, but it also had the problem with the humor as well. And the humor is my second biggest complaint about this movie, because like in the last movie, I thought that the humor was god-awful in this one. And the reason I didn't like the humor was because it was done by annoying characters, and it seemed like Michael Bay was trying too hard to make me laugh. But I think the thing that Michael Bay doesn't understand is that if the comedy or humor is done by these annoying characters that we just don't get, or we don't see them as goofballs, then we won't like the comedy or the humor. Again, Michael Bay directed this movie, and his direction was just slightly better in this movie than it was in Revenge of the Fallen, but it's still really bad in this movie. Because I don't understand why he thinks that the audience will like close-up action scenes when we can't really tell what's going on. Or I can't understand why he thinks that an audience will like a scene that's suspenseful or dramatic when he adds comedy into it, or when it's not really suspenseful or dramatic to begin with. And I really hated the surprise that Michael Bay was trying to direct, and it wasn't really surprising or suspenseful or dramatic to begin with, because it's like, wow, you really want me to believe in this surprise? Well, I won't. And I'll get to that in the spoiler section later on. As for the acting, I forgot to mention this in Revenge of the Fallen, but I thought that the acting was just bad. Because it seems like the actors are trying their best in this movie when Michael Bay isn't giving them any direction in the scene. But when Michael Bay is giving them direction in the scene, they just become terrible. And I didn't like most of the cast in this movie because of their characters, and this has to go back to the writing. Because the characters that are from the past two movies that are coming back in this movie seem like they're the same characters from the past two movies, because it seems like they haven't been developed at all. Sure, a lot of stuff has happened to them in the past two movies, but it just seems like their character hasn't developed from those past two movies at all. And I felt really sorry for the characters that I was annoyed by, because in real life they're really good actors, but in Transformers they're just annoying characters. Because in the movie they're trying to do stuff that didn't make sense, and if they're trying to do some things that were like for humor or something, it would just come out as annoying. The next bad point I have for this movie is that the movie needed to be trimmed down a little bit. Because I believe this movie is over 2.5 hours long, and there's just a lot of stuff in this movie that did not need to be in it for whatever reason. And this has to do with my next bad point, which is the editing, because the editors and Michael Bay put together this movie that had weird transitions like in the last movie. Because it's like during some action scene, it would have like sort of good action, but then the action would turn bad because of this like one weird shot, and it'd be like, why would you put that shot in the action scene? And I didn't like the transitions between groups either, because like in some scenes it would be like, let's go to this group first, but then go back to that group. Okay, I like being in this group because that had more interesting characters, sort of. But then go back to this group, but like, why are you going back to that group? And then it would like quickly go back to this group, and like, okay, man, this is weird. It's going really fast. And like in the last movie, I thought that the action scenes in this movie were just too action-packed. And that's a problem with me and Michael Bay action in his movies. It's that he shoots them sometimes weirdly, with these close-up shots that we can't really tell what's going on. And sometimes he shoots action scenes with like a little bit of shaky camera, and it's like we still can't tell what's going on. And he shoots action scenes that don't have like that much action in them or have unrealistic action. And the final bad point I have to say about this movie is some of the visual effects, because like in the last movie, I thought that the people behind the visual effects took a day off because it didn't seem like that scene was fully completed to its like fullest extent. And when that happens, I sometimes see the visual effects just as cartoony, because that's what they look like. Alright, my rating for Transformers Dark of the Moon is a 1 out of 4 stars. Like I said, I thought it was slightly better than Revenge of the Fallen, but still a really bad movie. If you're a fan of Michael Bay movies, then I think you'll enjoy this movie. If you're a Transformers fan, then I think you should see this, because it will affect the future movies to come. And if you're a regular movie fan or a fan of action movies, then I don't really think you should see this movie. But if you're bored out of your mind, have nothing else better to do, then yeah, you should see it. Alright, spoilers for Transformers Dark of the Moon. If you haven't seen Transformers Dark of the Moon and you still want to see it, then get over now, because I'm going to be spoiling some surprises for you. And I don't want you to be spoiled, because you should see the movie for yourself, I guess. So like I said in Good Points, I thought that there was one small surprise that was actually surprising to me at first, and I found interesting at first, but then it sort of fell out later on. And that surprise was when the annoying boss of the girlfriend of Shia LaBeouf's character was actually sided with the Decepticons, and we find out just like a few seconds after that there's more humans sided with the Decepticons. And I thought that was cool, because it's like, oh, is there like more humans in the government or in the military that are sided with the Decepticons? But no, we find out that it's just this like really small group of wealthy people that are sided with the Decepticons, and that really was bad for me, because it would have been cooler if we found out that there were people in the government or like people in the military that were sided with the Decepticons, because it would be like Autobots and humans versus Decepticons and humans. That would have been a cool scene to see. Like in the Battle of Chicago, we see the Autobots and the humans sided with the Autobots facing off against the Decepticons, and the humans sided with the Decepticons in this like huge battle or firefight throughout the city. I mean, that would have been a cool action scene. The other big surprise that was in this movie was when the humans exiled the Autobots so that there would be no more bloodshed. And it's like when the rocket with all the Autobots takes off, and when Starscream blows it up, it's like, oh no, they're all dead. No, it's like, are you serious? You want me to believe that? Because this happens, I believe, halfway through the movie, and they want me to believe that they killed off all the Autobots and there's like no hope at all. So when the Autobots returned later on during the Battle of Chicago, I was like, oh, wow, I didn't see that coming. And I really hated that surprise that they were trying to go for, because it seemed like they didn't even put any effort into this surprise to make us believe that they were actually dead. I mean, the only people that probably thought that they were dead are like 5-year-old kids. So that's my review for Transformers Dark of the Moon. Hope you guys liked it. And other than that, that's it.